What if I told you that a professional gamer was murdered? Not with a weapon, not with a gun or a knife or anything you could hold in your hand, but with something so precise and so completely invisible that it took the sharpest mind in the LAPD to even recognize it as a murder at all? And what if the person behind it had been hiding in plain sight the entire time, inside a video game? This is High Potential Season 2, Episode 11, and by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why this episode broke the internet. Before dawn on the streets of Los Angeles, a barefoot man bursts around a corner, screaming as if something is right on his heels. His feet are torn and bleeding, leaving streaks on the pavement. His eyes stay fixed on something behind him, something no one else on the empty street can see. He crashes into two strangers but never breaks his terrified stare. A shadowy figure seems to be closing in. Desperate, he tries to point it out, but the strangers see nothing there. He risks one last glance over his shoulder. His eyes widen in horror. Then he bolts straight into oncoming traffic. A car strikes him, killing him instantly. The street falls silent. All that remains are bloody footprints staining the cold concrete, trailing back to wherever his nightmare first began. As usual, the LAPD respond to the scene. Oz and Daphne brief Morgan Guillory and Karadec. According to the driver, the victim suddenly ran into the middle of the street, leaving no time to avoid the collision. A closer search reveals the man has no wallet, no phone, no identification, nothing to explain who he is or where he came from. The couple who witnessed his final moments say he appeared disoriented, possibly intoxicated. He kept acting as though someone was chasing him, insisting his life was in danger. Yet neither of them saw or heard anyone behind him. Morgan offers a different theory. The man wasn't drunk. He was hallucinating. When asked how she knows, she points out the black vomit she noticed near the scene. There's residue on his shirt, confirming it came from him. The vomit smells strongly of rotten eggs. Morgan explains that it's likely activated charcoal. When charcoal interacts with gut bacteria, it can release hydrogen sulfide gas, which produces that distinctive odor. The only reason someone would consume that much activated charcoal, she concludes, is if they believed they had ingested something toxic, which could explain the hallucinations and his terrified behavior before he ran into traffic. Welcome back to Sandy's Timeline. Today we're diving into my absolute favorite series, and trust me, this one keeps getting better every time. If you're enjoying the content and want to see more deep dives, recaps, and theories, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so we can keep growing together. Karadec and Morgan follow the bloody footprints in silence, step by step. The stains grow darker and thicker the farther back they trace them, until the trail ends at a shattered glass door. Inside is chaos, an overturned apartment, furniture knocked aside, a life interrupted mid-collapse. And the moment they step in, the story begins to take shape. Morgan finds a wallet on the floor, and the victim is identified as 31-year-old Declan Harker. The apartment fills in the rest. A professional gaming chair and a high-grip gloves rest neatly on the desk. On the floor, a framed magazine cover reads World Champion, featuring a younger Declan staring confidently into the camera. This wasn't a casual pastime. Gaming wasn't just something he did. It was who he was. A former professional gamer, once celebrated in a world most people barely understand. But something is wrong. For someone who built his entire identity around a screen, there's no computer, no tower, no laptop, no monitors. Karadec and Morgan exchange a look. If Declan was poisoned, and someone went to the trouble of taking his machine, then the computer wasn't just missing. It was taken. The front door suddenly opens. A woman steps inside. She introduces herself as Aditi Shah, Declan's ex-girlfriend. When the team informs her that he's dead, she doesn't cry. She doesn't scream. She says 3 words. I'm too late. Aditi pulls out her phone with trembling hands and plays a voicemail. It was recorded that same morning, just hours before Declan died. His voice fills the apartment. He says he's been killing someone, over and over again. And now, that person has come back for revenge. The room goes still. Karadec theorizes Declan must have been talking about a character in a game. After all, Declan was a former professional gamer, someone who spent years competing at the highest levels. In many competitive games, eliminating the same opponent repeatedly isn't unusual. The team begins to consider the possibility that this is a case of gaming rivalry spilling into real life. Maybe there was a player Declan dominated online? Maybe someone he humiliated publicly, someone obsessed enough to track him down offline. And in his final moments, terrified and hallucinating, it seems Declan himself may have believed that revenge had finally come. Adity fills in the rest of the story. Declan Harker didn't just drift away a year ago. He vanished. He walked away from the game, sold off his equipment, deleted his online presence, and ended things with her without explanation. For 12 months, he stayed gone. Then, a month ago, he came back. He logged into the game again. He reached out to Adity. He said he had changed, that he was better. They even made plans to see each other in person for the first time in over a year. Now he's dead on a Los Angeles street, his computer missing, a voicemail that sounds like a confession, and evidence that someone may have wanted him silenced. Whatever pulled Declan back into that world didn't just welcome him. It killed him. Adity suddenly remembers something important. They once shared a linked tech account. That means she can track the stolen laptop. The signal leads the team to a parking garage across town. They move carefully through the rows of cars until one stands out. Parked in a far corner, its tires still coated in fresh asphalt. The same kind being used on the road repaving project outside Declan's apartment building. Morgan nudges the bumper. The alarm blares. A nervous man wearing a Jubilee Games shirt rushes out of a nearby building and immediately lies about owning the vehicle. Karadec tells him to open the trunk. Inside is Declan's laptop. The man identifies himself as Jake Eaton, a senior developer at Jubilee Games, the company behind the hit battle title Battle Dynasty. He insists he didn't steal the laptop. He claims he took it to protect Declan, to help him. He says he had no idea Declan was already dead, but the way his eyes shift when he says it makes that hard to believe. Jake reveals something that reframes everything. Declan wasn't just a professional gamer. He was an addict. Gaming had consumed his life so completely that he lost Adity, his health, and any sense of balance. A year ago, he finally quit, got clean, started rebuilding. Jake says he helped him through it. And then, 1 month ago, something dragged him back. When the team powers up the laptop, they find it. Declan's gaming history shows one singular obsession. Every time he logged in, he hunted the same player, relentlessly, destroying their character over and over again, session after session. No mercy, no deviation. The username, Dreadnog. The messages from Dreadnog aren't typical trash talk. They're personal, specific, disturbing, not frustration, fixation. Someone behind that screen name decided what was happening in the game deserved a real-world response, and Declan knew it. He said so himself in that voicemail. Now, the question isn't whether the threats were real. The question is, who is Dreadnog? And how does someone cross the line from a digital battlefield to murder? While the team continues trying to unmask Dreadnog, Morgan uncovers something critical. Battle Dynasty has millions of daily players, and its automatic chat translator isn't always precise. One particular word in Dreadnog's threatening messages stands out: teppo. In Japanese, teppo can mean gun, but it can also mean pufferfish, is a delicacy in Japan, but it contains tetrodotoxin, a powerful and potentially life-threatening poison if prepared incorrectly. If Dreadnog wasn't threatening Declan with a gun, but with a fish, the theory shifts from violent revenge to something far more calculated. The lab runs a targeted test which turns positive. Tetrodotoxin is in Declan's system. Now the focus narrows. In the United States, preparing pufferfish requires extensive training and certification. Chefs must undergo years of instruction before they're legally allowed to serve it. In Los Angeles, only a small number of restaurants are licensed to handle and prepare fugu. The team compiles a list. 3 restaurants. They dig deeper, and just like that, to one kitchen. The team heads to the restaurant. The owner is firm and insists it would be impossible for either of his sons to access the pufferfish. The storage containers are kept locked at all times. Only certified hands are allowed near them. The detectives learn more about the sons. Jin is the apprentice, focused, dedicated to the family business. Rio is different. Rio is the gamer. As the digital trail tightens, the username Dreadnog is traced back to him. They bring Rio in for questioning. He's young, quiet, guarded. His father arrives shortly after and takes a seat beside him. And before anyone in the room makes a direct accusation, before a single detective asks whether Rio ever knew Declan outside of the game, his father offers something unprompted. He states that his son had no relationship with the victim beyond the game, that they never met in person, that Rio did not know him in real life. The room stills, because no one had asked that question. And when someone rushes to deny something that hasn't been suggested yet, it usually means they already know exactly what's coming. They push for a DNA sample, and while they wait for the results, the money trail surfaces. $100,000 in cryptocurrency on Declan's computer, traced after enough digging directly back to Rio's father, a man who had been secretly paying Declan to destroy his own son's game characters, over and over, because he wanted Rio to quit gaming. He had met Declan at a Gamers Anonymous meeting and decided that the fastest way to push his son away from the game was to make the game unbearable for him. A father, paying a stranger, to bully his own child out of his own joy. The room does not quite know whether to be horrified or heartbroken. And then the DNA results come back, and the room forgets how to do either. The DNA match comes back at 90%, not 100, not conclusive. Morgan stares at the number, and suddenly everything that hasn't quite fit since the beginning snaps into place. The killer isn't Rio, it's Jin. After Rio is brought in, the team pressures Jin to come to the precinct as well. Instead, Jin leaves behind a goodbye message, the kind that sounds final, permanent, like someone about to end their life. When the LAPD rushes to the Hollywood Reservoir, they find only a bike near the edge. No body, just the implication of suicide. Then Morgan says something no one expects. Sometimes, early in pregnancy, there are twins, 2 separate embryos, but in rare cases, one embryo absorbs the other. Only one child is born. But that child carries 2 distinct sets of DNA for life. The condition is called chimerism. It can cause subtle differences in the body, patches of skin tone variation, unusual immune responses, even DNA discrepancies between blood and cheek swabs. Morgan lays it out calmly. Rio and Jin aren't 2 brothers. They're one person. And suddenly, everything makes sense. No one has ever seen the brothers in the same room at the same time. The family photos? When the team examines them closely, the twin images are digitally altered. Doctored Rio has been playing dress-up, and his father has been helping him do it. 17 years ago, there really were twins. One didn't survive. The father never recovered from the loss. Instead of grieving, he coped by preserving the illusion. He raised Rio to switch roles sometimes as himself, sometimes as Jin, the son he couldn't let go of. It destroyed his marriage. It isolated Rio, and Rio escaped into gaming. When gaming began to consume him the way it once consumed Declan, his father panicked. He had already lost one son. He wasn't going to lose another. So he paid Declan and Rio, already fractured by years of living as 2 people, snapped. He used his access to pufferfish toxin, poisoned Declan, intended it to look like something else. But Declan ran into traffic before the poison could finish what Rio started. Then came the cover-up. When the DNA test threatened to expose the truth, they staged Jin's suicide. A farewell message. A bike by the reservoir. If Jin was dead, then Rio could walk free. The grieving, surviving brother. A desperate father trying to save the only son he had left, by protecting a son who never truly existed. And the most chilling part? The LAPD hadn't been chasing 2 suspects. They had been played by one. From hallucinations on a dark street, to a missing laptop, to a suspect who was never really 2 people at all. This case proves that sometimes the truth isn't hidden, it's layered. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like, comment your theories, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. This has been Sandy's Timeline, and I'll see you in the next one.